Hello and welcome back. The Stratocaster Spring Cleaning 2025. My 1987 Squier Stratocaster ST362L, made in Japan. Yesterday we removed the neck because we were getting too much of a bow in it this way, and the truss rod adjustment, which on a 1987 is under the pick guard down at the base of the neck, was going to a certain spot and stopping, and I've adjusted a couple times, and every time we restring it, put it back together, it ended up with the same little bit of a bow. I clamped it up into a slight back bow overnight. We're gonna check it out and see if that's straightened out at all, and then we have to shield the cavities around the pickups and the potentiometers to quieten the hum down. I don't know that it's going to work, but and unfortunately I have it all apart here, so we can't hook it up to see what it sounded like beforehand, but I know here what it sounded like. So once we get it all together, we're going to plug it in and see if that humming has actually dropped any. But that's what we're going to do today. So off to the bench. Okay, so shielding the cavities. This is just aluminum tape I got for 10 bucks at Rona. I see online a lot of people use this special copper tape, and I went into looking into it, and maybe I was looking at some pretty high-end stuff. I work in the wholesaling business, so I went online to find some good copper tape, and we were talking like $150 to $300 a roll. 12 bucks Rona. And I did a little test with it. It is lined. It's liner tape, and the adhesive is conductive. So I put 2 layers on, overlapped them, checked it with my continuity tester, and it was continued. Sure, that's a word. Either way. So now let's just get into it and see what we're going to do about this. So what I wanted to do is make a spot good enough to go to the base in here, but I also want it to just wrap up a little bit around the edges so that when I put on this part, there is connectivity between the two. So I want that to go to here. Put a little mark. Now I know where I want to cut it. So what I'm going to do is just run my finger around the edge. It's going to feel where I'm bending it around the edge. Don't know if you'll be able to see that or not, but there is a indent in the shape of the first thing. So what I'm going to do is cut out with just a little bit of leftover on all sides. Okay, so let's double check this. Slightly larger than the cavity it has to fit into. That's good. Now, the next issue is going to be is once we peel it off, we have to be able to fit it down into that cavity. So I'm probably going to roll it a bit. Roll it. Good thing I got lots of practice at rolling papers. I have to try and get the liner off the back. Don't bite your nails, kids. Really makes it hard to do stuff like this. Okay, so the liner is coming off. piece that's going in the base. Now, this might go quiet for you while I swear, but let's see what we can do. Have a swore yet. Not bad, I guess, all things considered. I'll probably end up doing a separate part for the tunnel. Okay, so let's get a pencil, because a pencil has a rubber. Rubber will work good for planting. So there's the first one, and I missed a little spot up in here, but I can do that. With one of the scraps. But before we do that, let's get the other cavity. And then just marking it with the scissors. Yes, I might put a little dent in the finish, but that will be under the pick guard, so we don't really have to worry about that. I won't worry so much about the tunnel going between, because it'll be easier to just use a different piece. Okay, so run my finger around the edge. Now I know exactly how big the gap is. Kind of hard to see because of the reflection in the window, but okay, let's go. Close enough. As I say, I've never done this before, so it's all new. And a hint I heard was peel the liner this way so that you don't stick that to itself. Okay, going deep. Okay, we don't have to be way too perfect with this, because we can override perfectness with quantity. I find a pencil eraser is soft enough not to damage the foil, and pliable enough to get into each and every individual little corner. And And this is also why you wanted to make sure all the dirt was out of there, so you're not sticking it to sand and then having it just instantly pop up. Because you also want it to lay and stay against the surface and not curl up and touch any of these wires, because that would be a bad thing. I wonder if there's like an easy way to do this. If there is, put it in the comments, because at some point I do plan on doing other shielding jobs. Maybe it's just have patience, I don't know. But when you're playing with the edge, eventually all of a sudden you feel or hear the liner coming off. And there it is. Pencil. Now what's going to make this particular job a little more daunting is the fact that I'm not changing out the pickups and the potentiometers and all that. So I'm trying to leave all the wiring where it is, because I don't want to get into trying to solder yet. Okay, next. Continuity. There we go. So, continuity, set up, condoms off, and when we touch these two together, we should get a touch these two together, we should get a. So, from one end to the other. We are not getting continuity. Why is that? I tested this earlier and we were getting continuity between the Okay, between these two we do not have continuity. Let's find out why. Pushing down hard, making sure we've got good contact, and we do not have continuity there. Now this might work better once we get a little deeper in. So at least I know where the issue is, and it's right there. Let's rub that in a little harder and check again. Why are we not getting continuity there? I don't know. Now we're getting it because I just poked it hard enough that the two metals attach. Okay, so now we have two cavities, the base and the tunnel between. We're gonna have to go over it at the end because making a continuity sometimes is a little tricky, but oh well, it's all part of my master plan. So as you see, I'm just rubbing my finger around the edge, and that gives me a basic outline of where the base roughly is. Cut out the line that is anything that is not guitar bass. Not bass guitar, guitar bass. Come on. And to the bottom. Pencil. What I will do, because there's a little lip that comes over and goes down, and there's a wire right there, I'm going to make a little snip in the metal so that it might go around either side of the conductor. Continuity. Please. Continuity. Yes. We have continuity. Alrighty. Now, as I said before, this is the tricky one because it has wires. You know what would make this all that much easier? Tape. So what's going to make this easier is I'm going to take a little piece of Scotch tape, and once this gets planted in the spot where I'm going to get the most out of this piece of metal tape, and then that will hold it still while I crease the edges. I have the pattern that I need to cut out. Scooby, Scooby-Doo. Come on. And to the bottom. Well, not bad, I guess. And check for continuity between these two pieces because they're going to be a pain when it gets to the other end of it. Beep beep. Beep beep. Beep beep. Beep beep. Don't forget to turn the tester off. And replace the protective caps so you don't poke yourself in the side of the head. If I was replacing all this, then I would have all that out of the way and there wouldn't be an issue with this, but I am and there are, so it is. Duh. So now I'm going to do around the wires. Because doing around the wires is a little tricky. You want to be very careful with this part because you don't want to damage the wiring in any way. At the same time, I'm about to put a very sharp piece of metal right beside the wiring. Once it's all planted and in there at the end, it shouldn't be a problem, but doing any adjustments or movements around it while doing the actual shielding is the dangerous part. Okay, to the base. Beside the conductor to the top. That could have been a little better done. Other side. That one's easy. Okay. And behind. Down to the bottom. And up the side. And there we go. Okay, so it took a little while, but I've got the foil around the conductors. I'm not out of the woods yet on that because I could still mess this up and damage the wiring, but at least I'm a lot farther ahead than I was a few minutes ago. So up around in here, right down the middle, as I want to be able to come over the top ledge and over the bottom ledge. Okay, here's where the swearing starts. I should probably just go along the back. Pencil. Now, over the top, just enough to make contact with the back of the pick guard once we get the back of the pick guard attached. So, right into the base, make sure that we get a bit of this here to there. And there's lots of overlap up top. So I think what I'm going to do is get it all done up, and then I'm just going to go around with the continuity tester at the end and make sure that everything fits at that point. And then if something doesn't fit, I can work on a patch. I might even have to stop and have some lunch before I continue much further here, but you'll never know that.